Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to this week's video. Honestly, I almost forgot about this week's video. I thought I had another one on the channel scheduled for today, but that must have been last week. So yeah, in this video, I just want to go over showing some sort of like damage indicators. I've got a couple of projects that I just mess around with every now and then, just chucking extra features in, and this is one of them. And uh, if you've ever played games like Fortnite, what's the other one now? There's a game called Gunfire Reborn. Basically, more like I'd say less serious shooters. There's typically sometimes damage numbers. So as you shoot people, you get these numbers on the screen, which indicate how much damage you've dealt to that enemy. And I personally really like that. It gives you a good indication of what sort of strength your weapon is, and especially if you've got things like multipliers and sort of other damage buffs, it's really nice just to know how much extra damage you're doing. I think it's a really good sort of bit of information to give your player or allow them to at least have it if they want to, because granted, not everybody would want to see that. But I think it's really useful because obviously you can get a good indication of what damage your gun's doing. And like I said, if you've got buffs in your game, really those sort of what those buffs and sort of power ups and stuff like that are actually contributing to the gameplay, and it gives your player some useful information. Anyway, I feel like I've introduced that far too long now, so let's just jump straight into it and we'll get this built. Okay, so what I've gone and done is just opened up an advanced locomotion system. This is an existing project, but I think it would benefit from having damage numbers, so I'll just use this as my base. Using this project isn't necessary. You can do this in any project. You can use one of the default templates, which I normally do, but I feel like I could do with adding sort of some damage indication to this project. Effectively, what you could do with doing though is obviously damage indicator. You're probably going to have a gun or some way of doing damage. In this project, I use a line trace system. I've got lots of videos on my channel about line trace systems, so if you just search my channel for line trace, or I might pop a card up in the top or links down below, how to set up a line trace in this project. But I've got a line trace, and what that allows you to do is it gets you a hit result, which is basically which actor has my line trace hit, and then I can use that actor to then apply damage to. So we're going to need to apply damage as a sort of basic. So yeah, at the moment I've just got this template. Obviously, when we get a gun out, we can use a line trace. If you're interested in this laser beam or this crosshair, I'll leave links down below for those as well. I don't want to get too much into that. But yeah, when I shoot in these people here, I want some damage numbers to pop up on the screen just to indicate what damage I'm dealing. So we'll close that. So what I'm going to do is literally off my line trace. First thing I'm going to need is some damage to be applied. So let's apply some damage. The actor that I want to damage is the actor that I hit with my line trace. So that's that. And then how much damage do I want to do? Now I'm just going to get a random amount of damage. So we'll do random floating range. Now what I'm going to do, obviously you can make this a little bit more advanced, but I'm going to sort of cheat my way into having accuracy of some sorts. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put -10 for the lowest amount. So anything less than 0 or 0 and below, I'm going to say is miss. You've missed. So there's like, what's this? Out of 100, that'll probably be like a 10% chance of missing. But I'm going to put the maximum damage to 110, and anything above 10 is a critical hit. Obviously, you can work sort your damage out, put multipliers in there and stuff like that. But just as a base, just for the indicator system to work, where we can have misses and criticals, I'm just going to do the range like that. So -10 is the lowest and 110 is the most. Damage causer, not really important for what we're doing, but I'm just going to put self in there. And to be honest, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Now, because effectively all of those characters in the background there that are going to be running around and I'm going to shoot is the same character I'm playing with, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put any damage here. So effectively this applies damage and this is going to receive damage. And it's not me that's going to be receiving damage, but because I've got clones of this character, I need to build it into this. So whichever actor you're going to be receiving damage on, put this event any damage on there. And effectively, at this point, what we need to do is okay. We need to create the damage indicator. So every time we receive damage, create the damage indicator and display the amount of damage that has been received on the screen. Okay, so let's go to the content browser. Now, I'm already in my UI folder, but if you don't have one, just create one or put it wherever you want. So we're going to right click, go to user interface, widget blueprint, user widget. I'm going to call mine WBP underscore damage indicator. There we go. So damage indicator. WBP just stands for widget blueprint. Just to keep it all nice and organized. And it opened up on my other screen, but here we go. So at the moment, this is our widget. There's nothing there. So what we'll do is we're going to grab some text and just drop it in. And I'm just going to change the display to desired on screen. And that's just going to show me just the text block itself, because that's all I want to be visible. And really, we don't need to do a lot to this, but I am going to make it just look a slight bit better. So I'm going to go to shadow, and I'm going to change the alpha on the shadow to 1, just so it's visible. You can now see there's a shadow behind it. And I think it's under advanced. Oh, shadow offset, here we go. I'm going to change that to 1.5 and 1.5, just to make that shadow a lot sort of deeper feeling. And then the other thing that I want is going to be, let's just close these. I want outline. Here we go. So underneath the font heading, there's an outline settings, and I'm going to change the outline size to 1. And that's going to put sort of like a stroke, if you're familiar with that term, stroke. Basically an outline. And you can change the color of that if you want to obviously whatever color you want, whatever fits your theme. But I'm going to keep it as black. Just that's the style that I would like. And to be honest, that's pretty much it. So everything else we're going to set via some code or blueprint. But for styling, that's pretty much it. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the name of this text block to damage number. Damage number. I'm going to tick is a variable just in case I need to access it. And I think that's pretty much it. But let's flick over to the graph now, and we just need to add in some variables. Okay, so we're going to be receiving an amount of damage. And if I remember rightly, the amount of damage is going to be in a type float. So let's make a float. So on the variables on the left, add and put damage value. And I'm going to change the type to a float. And I'm going to make sure this is editable and expose on spawn. That way that I can drag it in from outside of this blueprint. That'll make more sense when we create it. Now, also, this is not going to be persistently active. I'm going to create the damage widget, the widget, sorry, the damage indicator every time we receive damage. So every time, so let's say we get shot once, it'll display, but then it'll remove itself after it's done some animation. And then every time we get shot thereafter, we're going to create a new one and a new one, and they're just going to stack on top of each other. And then after the animation has played out, we'll remove it, pretty much. So we've got a damage value. So what we want to do is on event construct, because we're going to be creating a new one each time, effectively every time we create it, we just need to overwrite the text. Because setting up a binding is not really worth doing, because it's going to be a new one every time. So basically, as soon as it's created, so event construct is pretty much the same as an event begin play. We are going to get our damage number, which is the actual text itself, and set text. There we go. So we're going to do that straight away. And the text that we're going to have is going to be our damage value, and then that's going to be converted to a float. So just like that. Sorry, from a float to a text. Now, obviously, that's going to be the damage that goes in. But I want to do a couple of things to it, actually, thinking about it. I actually want to check, is it less than or equal to 0? If that ends up being true, we actually want to say that we've missed. So let's copy these two and put that up there like that. So damage number, pop that up there. If that's true, we're going to have the word miss, just like that. And then if it's false, that means we've actually going to apply some damage. Then we're going to show the actual number that we're sort of hitting on the screen. Okay, so that's fine. I am going to use that damage value one more time, because I think what we should do is, if the damage is a critical hit, so if it's above 100, which is out of the normal range, or let's say if it's 100 or more, let's change it to like a golden color, just so we know it's different, or maybe purple. So greater than or equal 100. So we'll do another branch here, just like that. So if it's true, let's get our damage number. So our text field, set the color, shadow color, or should we, let's just set the whole color itself. So if it's true, so if it is greater, let's move that up here like that. What do we want to do? Let's split this in color, and let's change the color to, is purple sort of like a special looking, let's put it as purple. And if it turns out to be false, what color do we want? Do we just want to leave it as standard? We should probably just leave it as standard, to be honest. So let's just leave it as white, and let's plug that into there like that. Just going to move these over so I can share this in the middle, just like that. Yep, I like that. Okay, so what we've got is every time we create this damage indicator, the first thing we're going to do is set it to either show the number, the amount of damage we're going to do, or whether we're going to show that we've missed. So if we've had a value less than 0, because as I explained before, I've set my range to -10 to 110. Anything less than 0 is considered a miss, just sort of like a fake accuracy type of thing. And anything above 100 or including 100 is considered a critical hit in our scenario. And it's just a way that I want to display how you can make this look different. But effectively, if it is greater than or equal to 100, we're just going to change the color and opacity of the actual widget. Okay, so we've now got a widget and we've got some text to actually display on the screen. We'll come back to the animation. I just want to make sure this works for now. So let's go back to our animan or our player character. So here's where we're applying damage, and this is where we're going to want to create this damage indicator. So what I'll do is just get rid of these for now. But what I want to do is I want to create a widget. just like that. And the widget I want to create is a WBP damage indicator, and you can see now, because we set that variable for the damage value to expose on spawn and instance editable. If you missed that bit, by the way, let's just go back to the widget, go to graph, select your damage value, and you just need to tick instance editable and expose on spawn, and that makes it visible when you're creating it. So we can plug the damage straight in there, just like that. And then really we need to now like display it on the screen. So for UI, you might be familiar with add to viewport. However, I want to do it slightly different, and I'm actually going to pick sort of like one of these. Let's go for body mesh, and I'm going to add a widget to it. So this is just a slot for a widget, damage indicator, just like that. And now that's down on the floor. I'm just going to put the widget class to draw as damage indicator. You don't necessarily need to do that because we're going to plug that in just a sec. But I just want to see what it's going to kind of look like. Now, I know that's up there at the moment, but what we're going to do is we're going to change this to screen space. But the world space will kind of give you an indication of where it's going to be. So I'm going to rotate that around so it looks right. So that's 90 degrees. And then I'm also going to change the draw size to 100 by 100. And then I'm going to, bear with me a sec, I'm going to drag that up maybe to about chest height. So what did that work out as? So the height is actually, is that number right there? So the height is actually 120. So it looks fine. All right, it looks terrible, but it's fine in some respect. So I'm going to change the space now to screen space. And to be honest, I think that's pretty much it. But we're going to go back to the event graph. So now what we'll do is we'll grab that damage indicator, and then we will say set widget. The widget we want to set is the one we've just created. So we're going to create it, set the value, everything's going to look right. Then we're going to set the widget we've got on our character here, which is currently blank because there's nothing there. And yep, that's pretty much it. So let's just see what happens. And then we need to remove it after a period of time. So at the moment we've got miss. And as you can see, because it's on the screen, you can always see it, which is nice in some respects. Haha. So I can see an issue straight away. So we've got a couple of issues there. So the good news is that our critical's working. Let's see if we can get, yeah, so there we go, a miss. That's fine. So it's permanently on the screen. So that's problem number one. Problem number two, the damage value is like 82.163. I don't want that. So let's fix it. So what I'm going to do is the widget class that we've sort of preset here. So damage indicator widget class. I'm now going to remove that to none. That way when we press play, we shouldn't see anything. So we don't, because we're sort of like not preloading a widget into it. However, if I shoot somebody, I'd like to think that now it reappears, so that's good. And it looks nice and clean. And the other thing is we want to remove it from the screen. But I want to do the animation first, just so then we know how much time we need to allow before we remove it. So let's go to the... where would be the best place? So what I'm going to do first, I'm actually going to round down the damage. Yeah, so I'm literally just going to put round down, or round, and then plug that back into there. That'll do one of these conversion things, but it's absolutely fine. So effectively, I'm rounding down the float before it gets to the damage. That way that we're just giving a nice round number. So if it's 82.6, it's going to be 87. If it's 82.1, it's going to be 82. So it's just going to round to the nearest number. That way, if we round down in the widget, effectively what would happen would be what we're displaying on the screen wouldn't reflect what we're actually applying to our character. So it's probably not. It's probably best just to round it before we send it in, and then we know everything's fine. Okay, over to the damage indicator itself. Let's do a little animation now. So I'm going to go to the designer, and down at the bottom here, you should see animations, and you can click on that. I've got mine sort of docked in the window, so you can click on your animation and dock in layout, and it'll give you this sort of like permanent static version. I like that because it doesn't disappear all the time. If you can't find it, you should be able to go to Window and click on Animations, and you should be able to get the same window. So I'm just going to zoom in over here just for a sec, just to make it a bit easier to figure out. And so we're going to go to Animations. I'm going to click on the plus sign, and I'm just going to say Slide Away. And then with Slide Away selected, I'm going to click on that. Oh, I'm going to select it. Add a track, and we're going to want damage number. So this is saying this animation is going to affect this damage number text block. And then what do we want to change? So add a track for the damage number. And I want transform. So that's going to give me the ability to change its translation, which is its X and Y coordinate, its rotation, scale, and shear. So really, I'm only going to use scale and translation, but you might want to use all the other things as well. And the only other thing that I want to add is render opacity. So that's going to make it either visible or not visible on the screen, and that's going to help me sort of making a fade away effect. So leave it set to 1 for now. Now what I'm going to do is, this is only going to run for 1 second for me. I think an animation longer than that would be kind of weird. So what I like to do is, at the end of my animation, I'm going to want my render opacity to be 0. But before I change that, I'm going to go to like 0.75, and I'm just going to change the resolution. Oh, sorry, no, I'm not. I'm going to just press this little plus sign, and that's going to say from the beginning to here, it's going to remain at 1. And then in the last 25 seconds, is this in seconds? I'm going to change this to 0. So you should be able to see now, if I play, that it's going to run and then just disappear. So that's fine for me. The other thing that I want to do is I want to do the translation. So I'm going to click on this little plus symbol for translation. And we should get a dot, but it doesn't appear we are. Let's just open this up. I'm not too sure why we're not getting a dot, but that's fine. Oh, here we are. So for whatever reason, the dot didn't appear, but now I've made a change. It has appeared. Let's go. So I've moved my timeline to this 0.75. But I'm actually going to pull it back to about 6.5. Grab this little dot and pull it back to about there. So where we are now is 0.55. I want 0.65. But it won't let me. So if you hold Control and zoom, scroll your mouse wheel, you actually zoom in. So I'm just going to drag that. That'll do. 60. Don't want to change it too much. And what do we want to do? I don't want to move the X at all, actually, so I should get rid of that. I want to change the Y. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to minus 80, which I think is fine for me. And I've just realised my own mistake. My minus 80 wants to be at the end, but here, I actually want this to be 0. And because I only want it to move at the end. Or do I want it to move longer? Let's see how it looks. That looks a little bit quick, so I am going to move this forward. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, let's make it a little bit shorter. There we go. Let's go back. Whoops, back to the beginning. Yeah, okay. That looks a little bit smoother, so we'll have that. So we get to what about the 30-second mark, and then we start playing the animation to 75, and then our render opacity then starts to change. So let's drag this translation all the way to the end. So it's going to slide up nicely. Now, just before the opacity starts to kick in, I actually want to change the scale as well. I want to reduce the scale. And in my sort of testing, this makes it look like it's going into the background. So on the scale, I'm going to press add. So it's going to remain the same up until this point, and then before the end, I actually want to change. Have I pressed shear now? I have pressed shear. I'm not doing very well towards the end of this video, so shear, not bothered about that, so get rid of that. What else did I click on earlier? I think it was the X, wasn't it? Let's get rid of that. Okay, so on the scale, what I'm going to do, where do we change this? About there. So add, and then as we get to the end, let's change the scale to 50%. So 0.5 for both, and they're not even at the end. Starting to fall apart, this video, isn't it? So as we come along, it's going to start to shrink and go into the background, and I like that. So let's see what that looks like. Yeah, okay, that looks okay. So I'm going to hit compile, and I'm going to go back to the graph now, because we've got an animation, but we don't actually play it. So what you want to do is drag off any of these and play animation. Here we go. Connect both of them to that so it always plays. And then we want to, over on the left, you'll see now animation slide away. So that's going to be your in animation. You should be able to leave everything as default. So start time, number of loops, leave all of that as normal. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And then can we do a remove from parent? Now, how long was our animation? 1 second. So if we do a delay of, let's say 1.2, and then we'll remove it from the parent. Hit compile and hit play, and we should get everything that we've expected now. So shoot this dude if we actually hit him. 107 and it disappears. 75, 76, 5, 49, 63. Interesting. So when we miss, we're actually going up here, and our animation's not being played. So let's not change that, but let's drag down here and connect that as well. So if we miss, we're not actually telling the animation to play, so that's not good. But now we are, and then it removes itself from play. So that's pretty much it. We've now got a damage indicator. Obviously, this video wasn't to go over how to apply the damage and stuff like that, but I had to include it a little bit. But for the damage indicator, I hope that was useful. Obviously, this is just my particular take on this sort of like style. You can tweak this however you want. Obviously, it'd be interesting to know what types of games people use this for. Obviously, you don't have to use it on FPS games. You can use it if you're playing like adventure games, where if you're hitting rocks, the amount of damage you've applied to rocks and stuff like that. The use case is pretty large. You can use it on almost anything. If this was useful at all, please consider giving me a like. If you sort of want to give me some feedback or comment or let me know how I'm doing, or if you've got any questions at all, feel free to use the comments down below. Send your messages over. Also, the Discord link will be down below. There's quite a lot of us. If you want to go into a bit more detail or share screenshots, or if you're having sort of serious issues with not just this video but any of the previous videos, and you want to share more detail, Discord's usually a better place for that, because obviously you can share screenshots and videos and files much easier than you can for YouTube. But I'll leave it up to you. And yeah, if you want to watch more in the future and want to be notified, consider subscribing. And that's pretty much it from me. So thanks for watching so far and all the way to the end, and I'll see you in another one. Bye.